Okay, good morning. This is day 42 of videos that describe a day in the life of a human with schizophrenia and to describe some sane thoughts that I have as the world has gone crazy and then turned it around on me and told everybody that I'm crazy. And so I start these things off with a little bit of a introduction so you can skip ahead 2 minutes or 2.5 minutes or so. And I came to the realization while writing my book that is titled Unveiling the Schizophrenic Tradition and on medium.com. It's posted to my Facebook page and to my Threads account. That if I was going to describe myself to others, I would describe myself as an itty bitty writer who experiences schizophrenia. It is a reality to be experienced, and much of the experience can be attributed to coming into contact with systems and operations that use highly advanced or modern technology or political technologies. I am just a one time semi activist. I am not a brain damaged author of a book about political surveillance, technology, and society and psychological operations. Much of this book describes thoughts that I have, my thought processes that I have that could have potentially gotten me targeted. This targeting is referred to as the targeted individual program by many people. I prefer to use the phrase schizophrenia to describe myself because uh, after receiving the warfare that has gone on, and my brain now functions in a schizophrenic manner. And I describe in day 17 of these little videos the other reasons why I choose to use schizophrenia, why I think it's more appropriate than targeted individual. One of which is that I think the targeted individual program is potentially an entire cognitive war operation in which it is like a Grover Norquist operation, but it just, but that's one reason, but there's other reasons too. So I am actually the recipient of a political warfare, what organized political warfare, what NATO calls cognitive war, and what the Indian chief of intelligence describes as neurostrike weaponry. And the Chinese also use this terminology called neurostrike weaponry. It has been termed mind control in the past by other people. This has given me a condition characteristic of schizophrenia, but is more in line with a coming into contact with the underworld of democracy or global governance reality, either fascism or supranational entity that is above the world governments and potentially run by corporations and stuff, or it's intertwined with each other. So, anyways, so you know, okay. So I'm gonna get into my little talking points today, and the first thing I was gonna talk about is the Luka Doncic AD trade. It took me by surprise. My dad showed me the article this morning, and I was like, "Nah, this has got to be a fake article." And let me see this. And sure enough, I googled, and it was like, "Oh my God, it's real." ESPN's talking about it. Everyone's talking about it, and I don't know. It just seems I was just getting into this Laker team. I was just starting to come around on them and being like, "Man, this team they they're kind of deep." They still needed a guard and center. I was just thinking like if they get a guard and a center out of this it added to this mix, they could potentially compete for a title, I thought. But I guess the management didn't think so, and they seem to be making a business decision because AD was going to be making $70 million a year coming up in the next couple of years or so. So they decided they got younger. Maybe Luka, I guess he's more marketable than AD. A big men aren't really marketable guys in the league. You know, just look at the shoe deals. Big men don't get the shoe deals and stuff. Luka is a European player, so he has global appeal in that area of the world. I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. I don't know. Does LeBron want to go play in Dallas now? Because he's been talking. There was talk about that a while back of LeBron playing in Dallas. And now, if LeBron went to Dallas at the end of this year, that team could compete for a title. Personally, I'd like to keep LeBron in LA, but LA just burned to the ground. So I don't. This seems to be a move for the future, but now we've got like three slow white guys in the backcourt potentially in the future with Luka, AR, Austin Reeves, and Dalton Connect. And so I don't know if that's really what you want in the NBA. Three slow white guys. Although Dalton Connect can move pretty good, but he's not very good on defense. Reeves is getting a little bit better on that front. So JJ Redick's master plan: three slow white guys. I don't know. They're all good. Dalton Connect, AR, Austin Reeves, and Luka Doncic are all good players. So maybe we could fill in some other guards and big men and stuff. I don't know what the plan is for the Lakers, but they must have one. Maybe it's just selling tickets. I don't know. I don't. We're we're still missing a guard and a center as the team is constructed, so maybe they'll make them out of their move or something. I didn't really like to see Max Christie go because he had that good contract and he was looking pretty good. But I understand the trade because Luka's younger. He potentially has more left in the tank than AD, and he's a pretty good player. He's a really good player. So yeah, now now I'm just gonna have to get in shape so that Luka gets in shape, so he's not a doughy white boy. Okay. All right. So Ledecky went to in my Ledecky book. She's talking about the Olympics, and she beat Michael Phelps' record, or she tied Michael Phelps' record. I think she beat it, and she was still disappointed in her performance because she didn't get the time she wanted on her thing or whatever. And I thought that was kind of the one thing where like she was a little bit not grounded in reality and enjoying her accomplishment. But it was in the moment. She's a competitor, so that's what drove her to that point. But maybe she just couldn't revel in. There's just some sort of like egoic thing like where you're like, I'm not good enough to be better than Phelps, or in her mind, or psychologically, I'm psychoanalyzing now, which I shouldn't do, but I'm psychoanalyzing a little bit. Like it was like a psychoanalytical thing. Like she couldn't think of herself as good enough or whatever. She had to be better or whatever. There was no more mountain to climb after you beat that record, and she's coming to the grips of like her times. I think it was like she reached a pinnacle of beating the record, and she's worried that it's gonna be downhill or something. I don't know. I'm just thinking, but yeah. So there's some sort of psychological thing there. I was reading in that book, but she's typically very grounded. But she as she beat that record, she was describing how she was worried about her time coming down a notch, even though she didn't beat her world record. She did put things into context, and that's a reminder for us to put things into context because like her her race where she beat the Michael Phelps record was the last race of the Olympics, and the one where she beat the world record with that same race was in the first race. And so she has to understand like energy output. It doesn't mean anything really about her conditioning. It's just like, anyways, I'm not lecturing her, obviously. Okay, so but anyways, I was thinking that this morning. Okay, all right. So in my We Are Electric book, they're talking about zapping rats' brains to fix brain damage and to control brains or whatever. And so what I've described before is that the Biden administration has sanctioned 30 Chinese companies for brain control weaponry. Uh, Likelihood is that the United States has brain control weaponry. In my other book, War at the Speed of Light, it discusses that mind control was something that the US government was very interested in, and it was irresistible to people in the US government. The idea of being able to control people's minds. And mind control has been out there in the literature. I think Manchurian Candidate, or in the movie industry, Manchurian Candidate discussed mind control. There's been other movies that discuss mind control, and it's out there. I mean, I experience it. I'm telling you, mind control is real, and we're living in a mind controlled world. And mind control, you talk about mind control, and it's considered, oh, don't talk about it. But when you say brain control, it's like, oh, the Chinese do brain control. I mean, it's kind of weird. But in this book, it discusses zapping rats' brains, and they can actually enhance your brain. So hopefully, I hope that's what they're doing to my brain. I hope that I think I think it's possible they may have damaged it, but I'd like to think that they rectify their damage. They can zap it into better condition too. All right, so this gets into the Chinese and the United States and their supposed trade war and the direction we're headed. We've been headed in this like new Cold War, and then I've also discussed, is the Cold War a ruse, like the Age of Aliens episode described a long time ago. And Trump seems to be all about moving the world towards a war footing. Starts with the trade wars, and that's how these things start. They start economic. It's an economic war. That excuses the military buildup, and it puts the populations of the countries on a war footing. We don't trust those people, and disintegrate the world. And they're disintegrating the world right now, and they're putting us in our little corners, and we're about us, they're about them. No, we're not about each other, and it just seems like Trump is like moving the world towards like a world war footing. And not to say that Biden was that much better. Biden was not that great of a leader, and that's why we have Trump. So, unfortunately, it seems like we're being put on a war footing with these trade wars and stuff like that. And in my book, War at the Speed of Light, this is all about directed energy weapons and microwave weapons and things like that. And they're discussing how the Soviet Union uh, used microwave weapons to send low frequency microwaves at American during the Cold War to their embassy, and the Americans didn't understand it because it was less than a microwave image from a microwave, but they didn't understand what was going on, so they thought maybe the Soviets knew something about it, like maybe it was a mind control thing. And I'm reading this section in here, and it is a quote from Sun Tzu. And the whole secret lies in confusing the enemy so that he cannot fathom our real intent. And I actually understand that because in the targeted individual schizophrenia program I'm subject to, they don't want you to know their intent. They're very guarded about their intent, and they overplay their hand to the point where like they make you think like, oh, this is what our intent is, but it doesn't make sense if what their intent is. For instance, supposedly it's all communist. Well, if it's all communist, why don't the Republicans talk about it in the last 15, 20 years? They could have been coming out here and saying, like, the communists are attacking us, the communists are attacking us, look at what's going on. And instead, they ignore the targets of these things. So it doesn't really fly that they would have not been on the side of the targets for 15, 20 years. And then now all of a sudden they're like, oh, now we're on your side. Uh, so, like I say, the war is confusion, or Sun Tzu says that. So, all right, I'm gonna go ahead and stop because it's been 15 minutes. Thank you.